lest a worse thing. Have you ever been there? Something happened in your life. You're really not sure because Jesus didn't do the other thing that you asked, but somehow or another this thing took place, and you really don't know if it was Jesus, so you really didn't give him credit, and you went back to your same old wicked ways, and something else came up. Has anybody ever felt like they've been walking through a revolving door and forget to exit on the opposite side? I mean, you feel like that every time you turn around, it's the same thing, or here's something worse, and then here's another, and here's another. Don't forget who it was that made you well. And go sin. See, y'all don't like to hear that kind of preaching because that ties into holiness, and we don't like to be told. You've been made well. Sin no more, lest the worst thing come upon you. The man departed and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. It was weird to me to find out that verse 4 wasn't in some of the ancient Greek manuscripts. It was startling. I mean, I'm used to seeing some translations omitting this word or taking out that word. If anybody here ever reads their Bible, they see where there's some verses in some translations and there's not verses in the other that this one that was the only thing that made sense. Because they said when the water stirred, they would get into and be made whole. Well, every once in a while it would happen. It's kind of like church. It almost resembles today's church because of the tradition. I mean, have you ever gone to that church that sometimes every once in a while somebody gets saved? See, you're not with me because some of you still got that thing on you. I'm going to break it off you this morning because we are going to move into revival. You don't move into revival without holiness. See, you've already got in your mind because of tradition and how it's been set up over the years. And when church says we're going to have revival on August the 3rd through the 12th at 7 p.m. And you think, this is what you think in your mind, that revival is going to be, you're going to come in, there's going to be a few people and they're going to hoot and holler. And the pastor is going to drip sweat, might throw a few chairs, we'll be tossing babies and all kinds of stuff. And then we'll go home and go, woo, pastor preached tonight. And nothing changes in your life. But it's okay with you because that's traditional. That's what we expect. See, there's been times that people will talk to me and we'll just be having conversation. They don't know me, I don't know them, and I never tell them that I'm a pastor. And people go, why don't you ever tell? Here's the problem. If I'm telling people that I'm a pastor, automatically I have to fight through everything that I say because they already have a perception of who I am and what I'm supposed to be. Now, if I can just keep my mouth shut, see, business owner, I can say, yeah, I own my own business. You know, so we can talk and they don't have no preset ideas of who I am and what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to respond or what I'm supposed to say, and we can talk. And in that conversation, well, I can just take some scripture and just thread it right on into the conversation and sow some seed. Because how many of you know it's not your place to save somebody? Come on. And 3 of you, thank you. Y'all three I need sitting right here. The rest of you, we go lay hands, these three and me, and pray for you. It's not your job to save somebody. It's not your job to clean somebody. There's a pastor friend of mine that put it like this. Our job is to catch the fish. It's God's job to clean them. So the moment that you want to grab a hold of people walking in the back door and tell them they can't, you just took God's job. Let's do it this way. How many in here want to be God? Okay, cool. Here we are in this setting in Jerusalem, and there's this pool, and there's 5 porches, and I can just picture these porches just like today's churches. You don't have to wear any kind of tags. You don't have to hold up any kind of banners going, this is the gossip section. This is the betrayal section. I'm the victim. You don't have to carry those flags in today's churches, but somehow, some way, those people that walk in that are the gossipers, they find you. Oh, they find you. They find you real quick. The first conversation, as soon as you open up your mouth and you go, you know, there was a time in my life that this guy just done, and bam, here it comes. Yeah, this is the person I want to hang out with. Isn't it funny how sick people want to hang out with one another? See what takes place when you've got a problem gossiping and you hang around somebody that's gossiping, you're okay with it. You know why? Because that person that's gossiping doesn't blame you for gossiping. So that there's no challenge there. Are you getting what I'm talking about? There's no challenge. The moment that somebody will allow you to stand and to walk in your sin and never confront it, boy, you are comfortable and you're all in. You'll go to church, you're going to sit with that group. You're not going to be changed, but you're going to go to church because it's the traditional way. And I keep talking about tradition because this is where we're backing up to verse number 4. Because some scholars believe that this was like an old wives' tale. It was a myth thing because they didn't understand the science and whatnot of underground springs because there was really no water in Jerusalem. The closest water for any purposing was Galilee. So any water that made it into Jerusalem was underground cisterns and these pools. Because, see, when you don't have a whole lot of water, you have a tendency to store up some water. Well, that's what we have here. We've got this pool. And they talk about it being red in color and stuff like that because due to the iron or whatnot. But when these cisterns would begin bringing in from these artesian wells that would bubble up every once in a while, would take and blow this water through these cisterns and cause agitation in these pools. Well, they couldn't really claim anything to that because they didn't understand the science to the minerals in the water. See, some of you might be, I had this thing one time called tinea or versicolor. It was where the pigmentation of my skin was eaten away. See, some of you thought I was black and white. But anyway, when I would tan, I had certain spots on me that would tan and other spots wouldn't because my pigmentation was broken up. Well, come to find out that if I spent enough time in the salt water in the ocean, that there were certain things that chemically the reaction would cause me to be a little different. I wouldn't itch as much because, man, if the sunlight would hit my skin, I'd be itching. I'd be scratching all the time, itching, big blotches. Some of them would raise up and get scaly as I would scratch. But if I would spend enough time in the salt water, I went, Okay, so traditionally, if anyone else would have seen that, hey, go to the ocean, it'll heal you. Are you with me? I want you to ride this boat with me for a minute. Go to the ocean because it will heal you. Well, it just so happened that probably over time there were some people that would step down in that pool when the minerals would begin to agitate in the water, and they would step in that water, and maybe it was a skin thing, maybe it was a bone thing. I don't know. Maybe it was a headache thing. Who knows? But somebody come out and go, Man, I feel great. I feel great. And the next thing you know, see, it's funny how churches will act too. Every once in a while, something might happen, and the first words out of the church's mouth was, man, God showed up. You go to that church, you're going to be healed. You go to that man, you're going to be. I'm really testing tradition and religion this morning. It's going to get a little hot. So traditionally, when the water would begin to be agitated, whatever it was from, the first one in would be healed. Here lays this lame, this paralytic, for 38 years. A long time. Oh, he was in the right place because they had told him about this water that would agitate. And if he could make his way to the water, he could be healed. But, there was a catch. I wonder if there's a Christian sitting here this morning that's paralyzed by tradition. Oh, you come to church every Sunday. Oh, you pay your tithes whether you hear or whether you're not. See, some people think that God's bills stop when they ain't. Never mind. Anyway, and some people will tithe whether they're here or not. And there's other people that will be here on Wednesday night regardless. It doesn't matter. Every time the door's open, you're here. And you're hoping that maybe somewhere, some way, somehow, something will happen to you. You've turned the idea away from getting closer to God to be healed and to be made whole, to walking out tradition and religion to be made well and made whole. Yeah, you have. I wonder how many of you keep coming to church. Oh, you're saved, you're just not changed. See, we think that we're just to come to church and just hear Big Mouth preach. When in fact, you should be coming to church to get even closer to God and maybe even lay hands on somebody else. Maybe you're the conduit for somebody's healing, not me. So when church is over and you walk out and go, Pastor didn't even have an altar call. Boy, I've heard that a couple times. Why don't you have altar call? It's tradition. Because you've taken the church, because you've taken the relationship of Christ and put boundaries around it, and you call it the church. We've stepped outside of that relationship with Christ. See, there's something happens when you have a relationship with Christ and you become a little closer to Christ. There's things in your life that start changing. You can't have Jesus in your heart and not change something. Heard a pastor years ago that said the only reason you got to beg people to do anything inside the church because they're not saved. Because if you saved and you got Jesus, you want to serve. I don't care what it is, you want to serve. If it's picking up a piece of paper, you'll do it with a smile. And you don't have to do it when somebody's watching. But when you're struggling with your Christianity, when you're struggling with your salvation, and you're dependent upon the tradition and the religion of the church to change you, you go home the same way you came. 38 years. Hung up in the right place. But experiencing nothing. Oh, every once in a while, I'm sure he probably seen somebody get out of the pool. See, that's another thing, too. Y'all start hanging out with you little cliques in church. And as long as ain't nobody in your clique moving, they okay with you. What? Oh, here's what happens. Here's what happens. You begin to build relationships outside of Jesus Christ. And the moment you tell someone that God is calling you to a deeper and a closer walk with Him, they look at you like you strange because they didn't really even know that you were a Christian because you never talked about it. You never said anything, but God wooed you one morning and said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to come closer to me, and this is what you're going to have to give up. This is what you're going to have to walk away from. But we have set these relationships, and in these relationships, they identify with me the same way I identify with them, sitting in our little own world. And the moment God calls me out, they disown me. Oh, if you're a single woman and you're hanging out with single women, they fine as long as you're single. Let one of you get engaged. Oh, if you're wanting a child and you can't have a child, let somebody in your little group have a child. Oh, come on. Come on. I'm not picking on you. Look, this is what I told you. We're going to have revival. This is the road to revival. People don't like to hear it, but this is what's needed. We have to get away from tradition and religion. We have to start going to a place to have a closer relationship with God. Did you even recognize what this man said when Jesus looked at him and said, do you want to be made whole? I mean, come on, think about it. And I heard this paralytic man say this. He didn't say it with his mouth, but I heard him in his head. Really, dude? You see me here, don't you? You know this is where everything happens. You see all these other sick people? Do you think that none of us want to be healed? This is the reason why Jesus is asking that question, and I'm going to ask you the same thing. Do you want to be made whole? Because, see, you've tied yourself to religion. You've tied yourself to tradition. And if church doesn't go exactly the way you planned it, if church doesn't happen according to the bulletin, if church doesn't go according as planned, ho, 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 Pastor, I didn't get to sing my solo this morning because you took too long at the altar call. Come on, come on. You ain't never been there? You ain't never heard that in your church? Huh? You ain't never heard that before? Come on. Pastor, I can't believe you let the kids walk out right in the middle of preaching because you're used to it one way. God doesn't move the same way. There's always something different. He doesn't change, but His ways do. Oh, the still small voice to Elijah. Oh, the burning bush with Moses. Oh, spit in your eye for this one. Lay hands on you for this one. Come on, don't tell me that God does the same thing. Stop tying the church to your stopwatch, to your day planner, to your plans. Don't raise your hand. How many of you set plans for about 1 o'clock this afternoon? You could go, look, see, there went a hand. See, you done it to yourself. I said don't raise your hands. And here we go. Oh, I'm going to make plans for 1 o'clock. How do you know church is going to be over? It doesn't matter if church is over. I got plans. I got to go. Think about it. Think about it. Oh, I'm not going to church today. Why? Because I got plans. Pastor, you're getting religious. No, I'm not. God set an appointment with you. It's a crying shame that the man that was stretched and beaten and pierced and mocked and ridiculed gets a total of 2 hours of your time to build a relationship. You can't even build a relationship with your spouse in 40 hours a week. Some of you can't even get a good relationship at work in 40 hours a week. But you want to have a good relationship with Jesus in 2 hours? Oh, come on, religious. I know it's hurting a little bit. I can see some pulled, I seen it. You pulled the foot right back under the chair. He's walked in and he has found this guy tied and held captive to tradition. And they may as well said the man was blind. Because here this man has Jesus standing in front of him and making the statement, do you want to be made whole? And his response is just like yours. Bring me the response up. I love it. It's just like yours. They should have quoted your name beside it. Nope. Back. Here we go. The sick man answered him, Sir? Come on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Come here. Come here a minute. Come up here. Listen. Hey, can you serve down at the homeless shelter? Sir, I have no man to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm coming, another steps down before me. Hey, can you take over the young people? Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I'm coming, others step in and down before me. They should have put your name right there beside it when you read it. Just say, Sir, and put your name right there. Bam. I have no man. Doesn't it sound good when you say that, sir, and put your name? Bam. Isn't it funny how the walking man that was sent from heaven, recognized as Israel's living water, can stand before you and ask you, do you want to be made whole? And you turn to look at the pool. Oh, come on. Come on. You've done it. You've done it. You've looked for the traditional way. You need healing? The traditional ways, go to church. They'll pray for you. It may happen. It may not happen. But here stands the living water and says, do you want to be made whole? But you still sit yourself in a state of religion, held captive by tradition. When God's word says tradition makes the word of no avail. You rely on the works that you do to obtain the blessings He wants you to have. Instead of relying on a relationship. And surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days. Oh, listen, y'all think it's just follow. Y'all think it's like you get up and walk and I'll just follow. It means to tackle you. It means to overtake you. What could a relationship with Christ do in your life versus what you attempt now? I would say some of you probably been in church 30 years. 40 years. Charlie, keep your hand down. 60 years. But I'm sure that some of you've gone to church and you've gone every Sunday. You've done it the same way every year. And if I was to ask you, I should have handed this out this morning. I should have handed you out a little postcard or something. I said, I want you to write on this the order of service. Pastor's going to open. We're going to sing a few songs. We'll give an offering during that. He's going to release the kids. He might open in prayer. He's going to open up the word. We're going to get fed for however long. God, I hope it ain't till 1 o'clock because I got chicken. And then he'll just dismiss us. We may or may not have an altar call. If you don't have one this Sunday, I'm calling Sister who and who. And you came to church this morning. They had altar call first. What happened? I needed something this morning. What's stopping you now? Because tradition doesn't allow you to stand up and go to the altar. Religion doesn't make door for you to go and lay prostrate. But relationship does. But they'll talk about me. No, your clique will talk about you. Because I just told you a few minutes ago that you're hanging out with the wrong crowd. Some of you need to separate with who you're sitting with. If they're holding you in your seat, you need to find another partner to come to church with so that you can be free in Jesus Christ. How many more Sundays will it take? How many more sermons does it take to break you? Told you this morning was going to be good. Amen, Papa, that's good. That's good stuff. Yeah. Y'all ever seen that wrestler snap into a Slim Jim? Yeah. I don't even know his name, but I remember the commercial. See, we don't get excited on a topic of holiness, relationship, getting rid of sin, talking about the cross, the blood, Jesus Christ being the only way. We don't get excited about that. But if I come and give you a help sermon, y'all know the helps, right? You've had a couple. I fed you a couple just to keep your taste buds moving. Because many of you got dry mouth on me real quick. Y'all just like, I ain't going there anymore. Y'all need to start handing out waters at the door, Charlie. So everybody got something to drink. We've gotten caught up in our traditional ways. Sir? See, you're allowing your, if someone is a paralytic, paralysis, you're allowing, thank you, you're allowing your paralysis to become your excuse. He had no excuse at that time. But because he had been conditioned, let me back you up because this is just the way my mind works. 38 years. How did he get there to begin with? Some of you been dropped off at the pool by your other friends because they can't do nothing with you. I can't do nothing with you. I can't help you change. Ain't nothing happening. Go over to that church. I just have to imagine that in his life somewhere 38 years prior to that, somebody took him and dropped him off. Well, it's just like Christian people. I'll pray for you, but I ain't helping you. See, some of you got mad at me because you've said it. And you've done it. Praying that you get better, but don't call me, okay? That's stuff. But 38 years sitting in a spot and seeing this stuff take place every once in a while. In the hopes that maybe it's going to come a torrential downpour and the water's going to raise up to his feet and it's going to get troubled and he don't have. You're going to sit in your seat when you come to church in hopes that the glory will just. You better be careful about Jesus passing by. This man could have done the same thing you've done for the last 38 years and could have said, "Sir, I have nobody to hold me by the hand and walk me to the altar." Just saying. I didn't have anybody that was going to have my back when I went to the altar. They were going to talk about me. I've heard it. "Pastor, they talk about me because I go to the altar every week." I said, "If you don't come to the altar every week, I'm going to talk about you." Oh, so you perfect? You don't need to talk to Jesus, right? Don't need to get that close to him. We ain't not the altar. We'll stand on the outer courts, if you don't mind. Welcome to the New Testament. Oh, it's rent from top to bottom. You've got full access. Oh, I want a relationship with you, but we'll have to do it from afar. See what I mean? Jesus said, "Will you be made whole?" Will you? Will you? Jesus said, "Take up your bed." Now you know what it was for. Most of you thought I lost my mind. They thought I was going camping, going laying down by the lake after church. Just thought I was preparing myself. Take up your bed and walk. I'll talk about that. Most of you won't ever carry your bed around so people can see it. You know why? Can I tell you why? She wants me to say why. This is why. Because you don't want nobody to know you ever had that problem. Oh, you've slept in silence for years. You sneak a peek every once in a while on the computer when ain't nobody watching. Oh, if you've done it, you know who I'm talking to. You'll take off out back. And hook up with that little substance deal. That's been your release for a few years. But you don't want nobody to know about that. So these are secrets. See, I'm not, listen to me. I'm not talking about that little stuff. We all have problems. And we all have hard times getting rid of some issues in our life. I'm not talking about the smoking thing and to stop drinking a couple of beers. I'm talking about some deeper stuff. I'm talking about the stuff that torments you. And you've relied on tradition to set you free. You've relied on the ways of religion to free you up and to give you joy. And the whole time, the living water stands in your face and says, you want to be made whole. See, some of you walk out of here this morning, and you'll be going, and there's others going to go out of here and go, okay, Satan, here's the deal. I'm picking up my bed, and I'm walking. Because religion hasn't fixed it. Tradition isn't taking care of it. But I know that there's a relationship. See, until you stop looking at the pool and begin looking at the one. I'm talking about the Savior. I'm talking about the one, capital O. The one that decided in himself that I give myself freely. And he took on your old wretched sin and died for you. And you still live in it. And you blame the church. Will you be made whole? Boy, the call to a deeper walk with Christ couldn't get any tighter, I don't think. I don't even have a necktie on. Maybe that's why I didn't wear a tie. Might have choked the air out of me this morning. It's tight. Listen to me. Transformation cannot stand in front of you without you wanting to yearn and to thirst and to hunger for righteousness. He can't. I said transformation can't stand in front of you. Jesus can't stand in front of you. He's transformation. You're going to miss him, church. He's going to pass by. The time that you need, He's going to pass by. Because your eyes have been on the pool. You've sat on the porches with your friends, your buddies, your pals. You talk about the pastor you have him for lunch. As long as pastor don't come to my row, I'll keep going. Pastor, come over here. I'm out. Will you be made whole? Are you willing? Because when he told him to take up his bed and walk, he was attacked. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. It's just kind of like a Pharaoh. Y'all remember Pharaoh? Let me jump back real quick. Can we talk about Pharaoh for a minute? He said, I'll let your children go. The Bible said, he changed his mind. It's just like your friends. Your friends have a Pharaoh spirit. They don't want to let you go, but so far they don't want you into the promises of God. They're going to come after you and go, it ain't going to happen that way. I don't know why you're taking up your bed and walking. You ain't never going to get rid of that addiction. That addiction's got your life. You're in bondage. You'll never get free. Oh, I could go down a list. I could touch every one of you. Just so happened she was sitting closer. And he went, like many of you will go. Yeah, I don't know who it was. Because you're scared now. Everybody don't know you of the person that you're about to proclaim that you are. They've never heard that word Jesus come out of your lips, so you're kind of nervous right now because you're scared if you go, Jesus, they're going to look at you and go, oh, you're a Bible thumper, you a holy roller, you a this, you a that, you a fanatic, you a this. And you're scared. Because you've been tied to tradition. You're in bondage and you don't even know it, church. Come on now, listen. You don't need to get honest with me. Care less. If you can lie to me and wear your facades and you can fool me for a little while. Can't fool me all the time, though. Be honest with yourself and be honest with God for a minute. Have you found yourself held captive to tradition and to religion? Oh, it's got to be this way and that way, or it's going to have to go that way, and we've got to do it a certain way, and got to be at church on Sunday when you're supposed to be doing it on Saturday. Can't have church on Thursday, you're supposed to be on Wednesday. You've relied on the relationship and you've relied on the definitions of conferences, of others, of different churches, breeds. That's what you've relied on to get you where you want to go. I'm going to help you. Your conference, even though we have one, is not going to get you to heaven. And I will let them know that. I don't preach against them. But I'm telling you that your conference will not get you to heaven. Your conference will not get you healed. Your bulletins and your programs, they're not going to take you to glory. Your dress codes, they're not going to get you holy. Cover yourself up from your head to your feet. I mean, look, let me put a Muslim in front of you. You telling me that's holy? Because of their dress? You're telling that's holy? How dare the women wear jeans or slacks? Picking on you, aren't I? Jesus has got a way to show back up in the temple. I'm almost done. Just settle down. The chicken ain't going nowhere. Jesus found him. Walked into the tent. Oh, hey, there you are. How's them legs feeling? How's that back working for you? Arms all right? Every once in a while, he's got to come and remind you of who it was that took you out of where you were and put you where you at. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed of the gospel. That's the true power. To everyone that will believe, that's the power. So God sent me here this morning with a question, just for you. Will you be made whole? Will you? Can you find it in your little loving hearts to clap for those that have been prayed for, because you just know that God's going to do something? Oh, not sit there and just look and go. I like the real excited ones, the ones that come to lay hands on you and they go. If anybody else gets out of their seat. When are we going to rejoice? When transformation, the living water, the one that died for you, Jesus, when he stands in front, some of you won't even get excited if he himself got in front of you. He will pass right on by you because you're still tied to your tradition. Jesus don't operate that way. So I can't stand up and rejoice because it's right in the middle of him preaching. I have to wait to the end so I can go. Tough call this morning. This is why I brought this in here, because I've caught myself. Traditions and religions. I was talking to God this morning. I said, God, matter of fact, it was over here in this corner. And I said, God, why is it we think we got to work you up? Why can't we just come to a house, where everybody believes the same thing and open ourselves up and let you move. Because we won't. Guys, we won't. We don't give God a chance because we're stuck in our little snooty self. Because we don't like what somebody said. I don't like how Pastor said that. I don't care. You go block yourself from a blessing because you're hung up in your religion. Man, if I would have stayed and walked out my Christian walk the way I was raised, I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't serve God because it was all about everything that I could not and was not supposed to do. That was salvation. That was salvation. There was no joy in that for me. You can't offer me anything different than what the world's offering me. Why am I going to give you my time? How can you present God in Christ in a loving form by telling me everything I'm not supposed to do? I get it. There's things that you're not supposed to do. But I also get this. That's in God's timing with his conviction, not my condemnation. You want to live in sin? Live in sin. I'm going to give you the truth. I'm going to present it to you, put it on a platter. You take it how you want to take it, and you deal with it. And if you don't change next week, don't blame me. We won't take these moments of self-mirror times and look at them and go, God, what can I change in me? We use it so we can blame other people. This is why I am who I am. If you wouldn't have talked to me the way that you talk to me, I wouldn't be so. Jesus was the one that healed me. That was him. It was Jesus. This is why I get to carry it now. The thing that once carried me, I get to carry. The thing that once held me, I get to hold. The one thing that used to be my excuse is now my victory. Will you? We think we got it, man. I hear what you're saying today, but I got till next week. I can come back next Sunday. Take care of it. Oh, today's not day. My friend showed up at church. Not today. Because they know how I live. You know, if they see me, then I'm going to have to answer to a lot to them. And will you be made whole? But Pastor, I'm young. I got plenty of time. I just got one more thing I need to do. It was that one guy that talked about me. I need to punch him in the throat before I give my heart to Christ. I need to give that one more person that piece of my mind. and then I'll do it. Maybe Wednesday. Can you hold a spot for me for Wednesday? I'll write you in the book. Hold a spot for me on Wednesday. Knowing good and well you got something to do on Wednesday, and you ain't coming nowhere close to the house of God. Will you? Be made whole? I detest religion. It's been one of the worst smells in my life. And I've literally smelled it. And I hate it. Because it has put God's people in bondage. And it does it in such a slick way, they don't even know it. You know how I can say that? I could do something right now. My wife, loving me the way that she does, she would probably go, I can't believe that you're doing that. She's not going to think of me any differently. But I guarantee you, each one of you would get set back, take another look, skip a heartbeat, something would happen. I wish I'd have found one of you before church so I could have got one from you. Because I don't smoke. But what if I lit up a cigarette and preached the gospel to you? Did y'all hear that noise? It was stitches coming out of the chairs. Because y'all went, what if? Oh, come on, ask yourself that question. What if? You'd be set back. You'd be taken back. Pastor's preaching while he's smoking? Come on, man. Look, Facebook would have a blast with that. Why? I'm almost done. You getting hungry? Because the church, in its traditional ways, has already give preconceived ideas to the world in what the church is supposed to be. All the world has ever heard from you. Can't smoke, you can't drink, you can't cuss, you can't go to movies, you can't go to this, you can't do this, can't do that, can't wear this, can't wear that, can't say this, can't say that. That's what we've said. And then we go out in the world. Oh, we wear this and we wear that and we say this and we say that and we smoke and we drink and we do it. Well, nowhere in the Bible says I'm going to hell. No, it doesn't. Sure doesn't. And I'm not the one to preach you on that. This is the only thing I'm telling you. That Peter was caught off guard because of the way he spoke. Aren't you? You was just, whoa, you were just with Jesus. No, I wasn't. He was talking all prim and proper. Y'all know where I'm going with this. It wasn't his influx of conversation. It wasn't that he was proper. Spoke well. And then he got found out, no, it wasn't me. No, sir, He was known by his language. What language are you speaking in the world? Oh. Get off that train. Get off. Who got on it? I heard a religious train come by and somebody jumped right back on it. Yep, they can't be smoking when you go out in the world. Can't smoke. Somebody jumped right back on that train. See what I mean? Listen. Religion's dangerous. I'd say 99.9% of y'all wouldn't come to church if I was to tell you next week we were going to start sacrificing lambs. Cutting up bulls. Sacrificing doves. It's religious. Why wouldn't you show up? Why wouldn't you come? That's what you're doing. You're doing the same thing. You're cutting bulls, sacrificing doves. You're doing all of that by saying, well, you can't dress like that. You can't walk but 15 steps on the Sabbath. But my refrigerator's 15 and a half. So your mom rearranges the furniture. And she sets it at 16, so there's no temptation. Tradition is dangerous. Religion is dangerous. I'm not going to say good traditions in your family that you're keeping and getting together for Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's not what I'm saying. So don't be writing me all this stuff and going, you can't talk about that. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you about the way that you receive Jesus Christ in your life on a personal relationship. You don't find Jesus just in church. Most cases, you don't find him there. I'll get something from that. We'll keep him out of the doors. We're hung up on this thing. It's time. Uh-oh. It's almost 12. Will you? I'm done. If you ever got on Facebook, buy Facebook. Will you? Will you be made whole? Can you identify the one that's standing in front of you and not turn back to your traditional ways? Can you look at the one that brought living water and say, yes, I will be made whole? And step out of tradition. Instead of waiting on pastor to go, if anybody wants to have healing.